Hello, beautiful people. I'm here working today, as I'm always doing. But, somebody once told me that if you did what you loved, that it would never feel like work. And I thought that was bullshit because, work is work, right? But I found out. And so, hi, Carol. I'm heat sealing in oil. So a little idea about what I'm doing right now is I'm constructing a beginner witch box, and I'm going to turn this around. We go and we look for items that have a lot of different spiritual purposes. So for example, when I'm put together the list of the herbs and roots that go into it, and we have a whole list over here that we keep because it's hard to remember what goes in what. I tried to look at things that worked for a multitude of things. But if you're practicing herb magic, straight out the gate, you're going to want things for cleansing, for protection, for building wealth, for removing negative energies. So a lot of thought was put into what goes into each box. And there's a little bit of snake skin there. I don't know why it's having such a hard time focusing. Maybe the lens is dirty. So let's go here and bring the lens. Okay, much better, much better. This is what happens when you got your hands in all kinds of things. So we got fenugreek here. We got calendulas in here, grains of paradise. But there's a full list on the website that, of all the different herbs and roots that we put in a bag. Pennyroyal, rue. So there are different types. So for me, I'm going to turn this back around. We've got rose dupe sticks, rose cones, snake skin, buckeyes, obsidian, different chimes, candles of different colors that you may need. I have a white one here. I thought I did. I pulled a yellow one. Okay, I got to go get a white one in there. And we have Jezebel worrying the hell out of me. Get away, cat. So in any case, turning this back around, I'm working on putting together one of these boxes for someone who ordered it. It takes us about 3 weeks to get these boxes together just because we do take time to package it individually. So if you order a witch box, it's not going to be like Sephora with a crystal and some sage. And, on the website, it explains, and to save paper, to save trees. We don't put a piece of paper in here telling you what all these do because number one, you can get that information on the website. Number two, do your best to memorize things. And I'm going to tell you why this is so important because, and I frequently have interaction with people. We have a closed customer group called Big Liz Conjure where, beginners come and there's experienced conjurers in there. Two of my besties are experienced. One's experienced herbalist. The other one's experienced witch. Come on, Jezebel, get down. This cat. And so even if I'm busy, they all, and then other people in the group. Some people have taken my classes. Some people have just done independent study. But yeah, a beginner witch box, people ask me to make them. It's so funny because I've often been accused of copying off other people. But usually if I come up with a new product, something the spirits have given to me. Because I'm a human being, we all do have similar thought processes. Of course, people are going to have different variations of the same thing. And that's what hoodoo is really all about. So people that get really all blustered about copyright and ideas, they should be artists doing original artwork because when it comes to herb magic, herbalism, the things that modern pharmaceuticals are built from, these are things that are, and that's what I tell people who take my classes, these are things that are regional, often by family, different things, that different practices. And of course by culture, because there's herbal magic in all cultures, but definitely it originated where we all originated, Africa. So our medicine and our magical practices are the oldest. It's scientific, and it's funny because sometimes, depending on what race you are, you will say that that is racist, but it's scientific. And that's one of the reasons why I enjoy spirituality versus when I was a Christian, or I was also considering becoming a Buddhist. This was very close to my heritage. I identified with it. There were practices and things in it that I was aware of. I just didn't know it was considered magic. People don't know. They'll often want to demonize this work as Satan worship, or rightfully so. Pagan somehow got to be a dirty word. What all it means is not Christian. Occult only means simply hidden, often hidden due to the fact of wars to convert us to other religions. People also have to understand that this type of practice, if it's an ATR, whether you are in Africa itself, being an initiated or going through that rite of passage, or any type of really dedicated spiritual practice takes a lot. It's complicated. I looked at my former, and there are more complicated, I'm sure, Christian belief systems, but by and large, it's pretty much spirituality made easy. When all you got to remember is Jesus, it makes it easy. But in all of these other religions, there are multitudes of spirits, gods, and goddesses that have different venerations that are way, 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 way older than the Christian church. So as a human being, I wanted to get closer to my creator. I wanted to get closer to the source. I wanted to take politics and racism and all kinds of things out of the way that I connected not only with the divine and the divine beings, but the divinity within myself. Okay? And so it's very interesting sometimes when you talk to customers, because not everybody comes to practicing herbal magic or hoodoo or even becoming part of an ATR. Is my connection breaking up? That sucks. How's it going now? Everybody okay? Let me know if there's some problems. I'm going to reach in here and grab some bubble wrap while y'all respond. Okay? So everything's okay? Very good. All right. Wonderful. So I'm saying all of this because I do have a point. You all know I'm a little long-winded. But my actual point is, with anything, I don't know if you were like me. I think that if you have the financial ability to do so, people tend to do this. I don't care what it is. If it's something that we're interested in, I know I did this with crafting. And nothing was more sobering to me was when I was packing to move and I was doing the whole Marie Kondo thing that I didn't even know was Marie Kondo, but the art of tidying up and going through boxes of what was fabric that I bought, fully intended to sew, patterns for my child that she'd been grown out of, okay? And looking in said box and realizing, man, you really, really, really wanted that at the time, but you didn't take the time to do it. And so that's one of the things. Hey, yeah, girl, we've been busy up in here. Great things, blessings going on. But, we buy these things because we really want to do it. And so it was at that point in my life, we were probably leaving Chicago. I might have been carrying these things around with me for like a decade or so. Always because I had the room and the space and obviously the income to do it. But when I stop and think, I just turned 50 on Friday, about all of the things, and I'm wrapping up some oils here if you hear some noise, that I've paid for, that I've spent money on, and then either my time or my desire shifted, that I've got this one little earring tree thing that I'm trying to figure out how to do. that's been sitting here since I started it this summer when we moved in. So keeping that in mind, nobody's perfect. But as a person, a purveyor of what I believe to be fine spiritual goods, sometimes when I actually have the chance to interact with somebody before they make a purchase, I'll ask them, okay, usually privately, or if they're talking about what they're buying in a group, I'll ask them in the group, what do you want to do with this? And I'm always surprised, and I just had this happen to me, when I asked somebody that. It wasn't in the group. It was in person, which was even more so interesting. And the person, I tell people, the person was just like, well, I saw something in a book. And I was just like, oh, okay, that's great. What is it? What are you doing? So there's two answers for that question, you guys. One answer is none of your business. And that's usually what an experienced witch should say. You don't have to tell somebody why you're doing something that's your option. Or, be able to explain what you're doing. And the situation with me was, when I asked this question, I know we live in times where people are not so nice to each other, and people are always trying to floss and show off. But trust and believe, if I ask you that question, it's usually because I might be able to suggest something else or something additional that will help. That's what I'm supposed to do. That's kind of like what I do for a living. I'm selling products. I should know what they do. And if I don't, because, man, there's over 100 and some herbs here. And combined with all of the lifetime of education that I've got stuffed in my brain, and all of the things that I've had to remember because I'm a parent or because of my jobs, sometimes I won't know every single thing about every single root, and that's okay. But what I'm trying to teach, and what I hope that people will grasp a hold of the concept, because when you find anything that's a passion, I've done a lot of different things. I'm an online course designer. I used to be a professional photography. That's how I met my mentors. And when we first start something, we get real excited. But if y'all go back and look at my pictures of my first little root room, it wasn't like this. Number one, I didn't have the money to do it. Number two, I was getting the most important things I needed at the time, which is why I do the witch boxes. So that when I start, because see, I think that we go about the practice of magic kind of wrong. Because we're looking at it as the huge monolith that it is. And that's the thing, magic was meant to help with life's experiences. So not everybody's going to have the same life experiences. All of us are going to need magic for different purposes and different reasons. And I remember being incredibly stressed out when I first got a hold of this, and hoping I didn't mix anything wrong, hurt anybody unnecessarily. Do what the spirits had required of me, that I now understand that they required of me from birth. And so some people have that and some people don't, but the root is still the root, and the ancestors are still the ancestors, and there's still a multitude of things you can do for yourself. I find that when people need to seek higher spiritual things, it's either a generational curse or a serious curse that someone has put upon you, someone who has been able to tap into the negative energy to make that work on you. It does happen. But that is why, for me, it's important for you to do certain things. And, Sometimes I was telling Mambo Yansa, like, we make a lot of things that we don't use. I don't use the romantic products, not because I have anything against romance. It's just really not my focus right now in my life. But the stuff smells so good, you just want to wear it. That happens to people. But what I'm saying is I think I would much rather, especially as a person in business, selling spiritual goods, because yeah, for a long time, a lot of people got a bad rep because people stopped believing in this. And that lack of belief caused a lot of knowledge loss. Knowledge loss to the point where you can go into some of these stores and people that don't know a thing can sell you anything. You know, most of the time is fairly harmless. I never forget, I went to a spiritual store and somebody had the little cascarilla cups marked as goofer dust. And I'm like, oh, baby, what you doing? And it was that person's opinion that they didn't really need real goofer dust, you know. And that's what they said. I've often talked to magical proprietors and questioned some of the things in their store, and they'll have different reasonings for doing so. But it is quite possible, because we are human beings, that they didn't even know that somebody else had given them misinformation. And these are traditions. Traditions are based on rules. And, you know, I tell people, don't try to sit up here and ask me how it works. Because there are some mysteries of the universe, I guess, that us mere human individuals are not going to be made aware of. So, we trust. We see what happens when we work with spirit. We see what happens when we beseech our ancestors. And through that trying, we find a system that works for us. For me, it was voodoo. For others, it will be Ifa. For other people, it will be Santeria. For other people, it would be Candomblé. For other people, it would be Kimbanda. For other people, it would be Umbanda. You know, Lukumi, Yoruba. So, yeah, mullein is a substitute for graveyard dust. So either they're making shit up, or they were told misinformation because they weren't supposed to be privy to the information, or they literally don't know. You know, research by any one source is a dangerous thing. You should be definitely doing a combination of book research and internet research. Not everything on the internet is horrible, but not everything is good. But also working either, you know, by yourself as much as you can, if that's what you choose to do, or with someone who can kind of show you a little bit, you know. Like I said, I did a lot of research, which turned on a lot of lights that made me realize what was going on here. And that is the reason why I chose the path I did. But there are people who want to do this work. Lots of them. Some of them for themselves, to improve their situation. And oftentimes when some people come to you like that, they're desperate. And so being desperate can cause you to make shortcuts. But, you know, another thing about one of the things I noticed was really, to me, Afrocentric in its inception is this preventive medicine, to the point where you don't need medicine for the cure or the lack thereof, but to keep these things from happening to you. So that's how spirituality works on the first level, you know, cleansing, protection, serving spirits that will protect you. And like I said, once again, don't ask me how it works. It works. It's been a very beneficial life to me, not financially. Most of the money that we make either goes, you don't see me living large, but I'm living middle class. I'm blessed. I got a car that runs. I got a house that's livable. You know, I'm able to pay utilities. I'm able to donate to my associate. But, you know, I think a lot of times, especially when you see movies and things that mention are forms of magic, stuff like Sabrina the Teenage Witch. There's always going to be a segment of the population that is desperate. I read an article about grief. We walk down the street and we'll have different problems and arguments with people, and you have no idea what that person is going through. Every single person has lost someone. Every single person has probably some type of financial concern, or their child is sick, something. Everybody's got their something. And so that's what makes magic incredibly individual. That's why people are like, well, why are you teaching people? Aren't you scared they're not going to buy your products anymore? Well, they don't buy the products, they'll buy the roots, they'll buy the herbs. Or at least they'll know, and that's usually the case with my students, that what they're getting is legitimate stuff. And so that's what, when the reason why I say, if I ask you, hey, if you're saying you're getting a particular ingredient and maybe you got two different ingredients and they didn't really go together, I'll be like, what you about to do? Because I have had the encounters of people who had no fucking clue. And then I've also had encounters of experienced witches who either shared what they was trying to do, or they'd be like, sorry, and when they do that, I know they know what the fuck they doing, and it ain't nobody's business, which is the preferable answer, none of your business. But sometimes, they will want to talk because we work with elders in our tradition. You really should be getting divinations from them, if you're stuck about what needs to be done, or you feel like you really want to have your conviction validated. Sometimes it is, sometimes it is not. So, that's the reason why I would ask you something like that. But, I think a lot of people are like, oh, she tried to test my witch knowledge. Well, I mean, asking a question like that, that's not the motivation, but it is. It will eventually let me know what you can do, what you can't do. Even, you might even teach me something. I'd be like, oh, okay. So, I think we've lost that village mentality where my mouth is extremely dry. Hold on, y'all. I'm like that dude. Was that Cuomo? I don't know who that was guzzling water on TV because he's tripping out. He probably had cotton mouth. But in any case, a lot of people are not, I can't make that assertion because I've seen so much just snarkiness and people being nasty to each other because they're not in the same room with the person. Because if they were in the same room with the person, they'd probably get bust in the mouth. But I've seen, if people, in these groups, ask a question that's probably dumb as hell, just the way people are with each other. So I can guess and understand and assume why someone is going to think that I'm testing them. But like for me, this is important. And I test myself. And I learn things and I buy new roots and I find out what new things do and I find out what other cultures need. Because there's no reason why you shouldn't expand everything. Every herb, root, curio has a magical purpose. And you should be learning about new things. I have customers ask me about stuff all the time. Excuse me. I'm thinking that about 1/3, a good deal of all the products that are not mine are because customers ask me to stock them. And then things that I've learned how to make because customers ask me to stock them. Or a customer may ask me for a particular condition of which a formulation doesn't exist. But once I've made that custom oil for that customer, most of the time it goes into part of the regular formulation line. Why? Because there is a need addressed. And, that whole thing, I've seen people, and I don't care what it is, go into business and go out of business because of improper choices for growth. Some of them cannot be avoided. You have to spend money to make money. But like I was saying, getting back to this material, that I made, because man, if I had my dream job, I'd be a fashion designer. But the intricacies of making clothes from scratch, especially without a pattern, just kind of missed me. So, or building dollhouses. And I'm starting to realize that, I don't know, I'm trying to build furniture, but I need to take more time with some of the skill sets that are required to do those things. So I'm going to, keep plugging along because it's something that I enjoy to do. And if I make money doing it, then it's not work because it's something that you have a passion for. So a lot of times when we start practicing witchcraft and we want, everything in the world, and to start our practice, I want to make some things that are small, because the fresher the herb is, remember, it's still dried. And then if it's broken up, it's releasing its essential oils. It's magic. It's ashe. It's blood. So after a while, this stuff wears off, which is why I tell people hoodoo love spells, they're great if you want to keep working them, but I don't know anybody that wants to have somebody make somebody love them for that long. Can it happen? It's happened. And then when the person unhoodooed, they show their ass. And then the person wonders, well, what in the world happened? Well, we're off. There's a big difference between magic and spirit work. Work with spirit is lasting. Work with spirit is secret. It is work that you do, preferably, especially with highly elevated spirits, gods, and goddesses, with someone who studied them, who understands how they have been traditionally venerated. And, at this point, I'm seeing how there can be so much of a benefit to Black people and the Black psyche when it comes back to the earth. And right now, as we speak, my oldest daughter is downstairs getting her plants set up in her greenhouse because that's her thing. She loves to grow shit. She was growing, she took some carrot tops and was growing them in a pot. And we realized we weren't going to get any carrots from them. And then Jesse tore them up. Jesse's been eating our stuff in our pots that we've had in the windowsills. So time to move the stuff to the greenhouse and keep her ass out of there. But I'm going to grow her some stuff too. Need to give her more catnip. It's like the cobbler's kids that had no shoes. I got this gallon fucking jar of catnip sitting over here, and Jesse ain't got no catnip because I didn't give it to her. So that's the thing. We have a limited amount of time for life. And I've been looking at my phone, and my phone's been telling me I've been doing less screen time. Well, I'm like, yeah, less screen time on the phone is because I've been tied to my desk. But it's nice to let it go down. I'm going to spend today, I'm about to go take me an afternoon nap. It is my birthday weekend. I'm going to take me a little afternoon nap. I'm going to come back. I'm going to finish this witch box that probably should have been out already and work on some more orders. And I'm just going to do me, because when it is a joy, when it is part of your spirit, it is not a job. It's just life. And so that's where you want to get. That's the point where you want to get to, where magic is just your life. And yeah, it sounds kind of crazy, isn't it? Magic is your life. But you got to think of the conceptions of magic and what, magic used to have excellent connotations. And for a lot of us, it still does. Anytime the dominant culture demonizes something, it is usually because of its power. It is usually because of its scope and the things that it proves scientifically about superiority and healing ability. Because if we are not a people who within our DNA didn't have this innate healing ability, there would be no Black people on the planet today. Because that is definitely been a goal all along. Or to keep ones that will serve. So this particular magic is about your personal power. It is about what you are going to focus on to make your life better, how to improve the lives of people around you. No, you cannot be completely broken and help heal anybody else. Because even if you still have that amazing gift, it's going to suck everything that you have left to do so. So, the first step in working with this is healing oneself and working with the spirits and the gods so that they will heal you. Because, I think that's one of the reasons why millennials kind of have it so hard, and why they have the attitude that they do. Because never in history have you been exposed to so much bullshit. Never in history have we had an administration like we have right now. It's very hard for young people and adults to stay positive in the face of this kind of foolishness. Okay, now we've had some worse times, really, really, really worse times as Black people, but we've watched our ancestors come through those times, and there are definite things that we can model after them that will enable not only your survival but your happiness. And one of them is being financially comfortable. And so what I tell people is, when you're in a financial bind, the last thing you need to be doing is spending maybe $400 on herbs and roots and things like that you don't really know how to work with, which is why we make the formulations. But I keep telling people that's the gateway drug, because you're going to want to learn how to go in your kitchen cabinet and heal yourself. These are the things emotionally, physically, spiritually that I always wanted to do. I just never found a way to make it fit in the things that I was venerating and worshiping before. And people evolve, that's why some people are in multiple traditions. For me, voodoo's everything, and it's really important for me to kind of focus on to being the best human I can in that particular frame. And those frames are going to be different for everybody according to their personal belief systems. There are plenty of, people who are homophobic, transphobic, racist even, and sexist in everything. So yes, you will see it in some organized religions, and you'll see it in some more than others, but religions do evolve. So, if that's what your religion permits and things like that, we can all enact positive change in the way that we treat people. We don't have to be bisexual to respect somebody else's sexuality or their preferences as much as we respect our own. Everybody's got their something. And, if human beings can now get to the point where we can just do that, deal with that, and everybody just try to do things that will make yourself better, it helps. It's not going to fix everything. And yeah, there are going to be times when you're going to have to do some dirty work. There are not going to be times in your life where everything and everybody's going to be good to you, When we have to have the knowledge of that, we're so let down often by these things that we have to go through in life. It's a human thing. But I find that, being in these traditions does not make those very human realities not happen. It helps us deal with them in a different context, and that context is comfortable for certain people in their certain practices. So all getting back so I can go take my afternoon nap. I swear I just got up, but I'm just enjoying my day. But I'm probably not going to nap. I'm probably going to go over there and read. I read all sorts of interesting historical articles, all different types of things. That's why I love social media. It has the ability to take me down a rabbit hole of knowledge. Other people, they take it down a rabbit hole of pettiness and other things. So I understand that when somebody asks you a question that's selling you a product, it may be because you're thinking, oh, that person wants to sell me something else. But I always have that Mr. Gower, It's a Wonderful Life thing. I'm like, I just want to make sure you're getting what you're supposed to have and what you need, and that you do the work as soon as you can within the right time frame, and not just have this stuff sitting around because you saw something in a book that you might think you might want to do one day. Because like I said, these things are natural, and I got paint on me, so I'm a little itchy. These things are natural. They have expiration dates, as they should. Everything on this earth lives, grows, and dies. They even shrink. You even shrink sometimes when you get older. So understand that's the same thing about your herbs and roots. You don't want to collect and have an overabundance of things that you don't have an intent for. Hello, Mambo Yansa. I'm talking a little bit about what I was talking about last night about always when you're doing your magic, and I talk to my students about this all the time. Intent, intent, intent. Intent is going to drive everything, because when you start to get into the weeds of picking out an herbal formulation, you're not just looking at what the herb's magical purpose is. You're looking at its gender, because there are gender assignments, and maybe as we evolve as human beings, acknowledging other genders, you might see some of that stuff change and shift. Okay? Or non-binary types of things. You're going to see its element, air, earth, water, fire. You're going to see its astrological sign. You're going to see, and so all those things may not make a difference to every single person. I try to look at all of it, okay? Except maybe with parts of deities that they're associated with, because I have my own deities that are associated. But at least I know, and I know how that same energy is venerated in another culture. And that all of that helps me put a formulation together. Okay. Now, but when I first started out, yeah, it was just the magical intent. Now things have to be looked at and scrutinized just a little bit more, because when you know better, you do better. So, when you're buying things from me or anybody else, and that's how I know sometimes when I've gotten some bullshit, because I know what the real stuff looks like. I know what the real stuff does. And Mambo Yansa saw me last night. I tasted something. It could have been alum. It could have been sugar, because the Indian name from India was on it. It's sugar cubes. And, and they're just really tasty too. But, I had a little bitty one. But all I'm saying is, being able to smell warm wood with your mouth. And you can taste something. I do it with all my students. Valeria, it smells like hops, but fenugreek, peppermint versus spearmint, devil shoestring. It has like 3 or 4 different varieties. Depending on what I can get I change the Latin name on the listing if I get a different, because there's like 3, and that is controlled by region. But y'all, didn't nobody come and give me no spiritual download of that information. That information came from researching what I wanted and what I wanted to use it for. So having your magical intent, boom, 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 boom. And even then, if somebody else asks you what you going to do with it, you can say in broad terms. You ain't got to tell the whole story. Somebody about to get fucked up. Somebody about to get blessed. I'm trying to make something happen. Cool. In fact, I think that's the way witches should communicate with each other, because we also telepathically do. Ones that will open their minds to each other. You should also block certain folks from your mind, because they don't want to know what's going on in your mind, because you're so busy trying to be nice coming out your mouth. So, I want people, most definitely, we're getting more herbs and roots every day. I'm ordering herbs like nobody's business. And that's just so awesome, because the more I buy, the more I learn, the more I have available. And yeah, I can at some point do this and nothing else, lead this life, which I know for a lot of people, and I was dangerously headed in that direction, that we never get to full-time become employed in our passions. But sometimes having a passion is just not enough. There's so much you want to learn to study. And so one of those things in self-care is taking that time, like they said, Bill Gates said it best, 5 hours a week, starting with an hour a day. And so that's what I'm going to do with myself. I'm going to carve an hour of my day to expand my mind in whatever I want to expand it in, whether it is digital or whether it is magical, because we're losing our ability to study. And therefore, if you don't know this stuff, and you can, man, I can tell you, I'd have missed out at the grocery store a couple of times if I didn't know some of the things I know about root work. I'm like, oh, whoa. When I walk into a grocery store that has a huge herb section and realize that many of my herbal dreams had just come true. Because at that time, I was not selling herbs, so I didn't have a wholesale license. And I wasn't keeping things in large quantities, but just knowing where to go in the cut. Yeah, I love that you prefer my products. And yeah, I love hearing that they work. That's what keeps me doing this. If this didn't work, why be bothered? But you do need to set yourself up for success with anything you do, including your spell work, which means knowing exactly what you want, how you know you want to get it, how you want it to turn out, in-term ramifications for your future descendants. Be very specific, because usually people only do spell work when their ass is on the line. People are not doing spell work just cause, and, like for me, I try to make sure I take spiritual bath in my products. I try to make sure that, like yesterday, I spent all day cleaning my altars. Woo, baby. Respecting my spirit, showing them how much I'm grateful, because when I've come to them, they have come through. And I tell people who do not believe, okay, all right, you don't believe, it's all right. So that means when you die, it's just boom, black. You don't know any better, right? And they say, yeah. I'm like, okay, so either I'm right and I get to go and do some real awesome spiritual shit in my afterlife, or I'm not going to know and I'm not going to care. So, because I believe, I have all types of things in this life and the next to look forward to. Hope is an amazing antidepressant. It's probably the most effective one. There are lots of different ways, therapy, medications, then I believe in different things for different people that work. That's the important part. Does it work? Does it get you back to where you feel you can fulfill your purpose on earth? Because that's the part that drives us. And too many people, like when dude did that book called The Purpose-Driven Life, you'd have thought he came up with a concept that ain't nobody ever thought about before. But if that's the case, then we wouldn't have plays like Raisin in the Sun or Death of a Salesman, because of people that have not fulfilled their purpose. And so I think I'm multi-purpose. There's a lot of different things that I love that the spirits have given me an interest to do. And I'm going to try to do a little bit of all of them. But that also takes being organized, and also takes not having a whole lot of shit in your environment. The Sunday service that you needed, I think I'm going to share this in the First African Temple of Ancestor Veneration, because I haven't had time to do a Sunday talk. And I do want other people to do Sunday talks if you're interested in the temple talks. Because you know what? We are still culturally ingrained in our practices that we grew up with. And nothing makes me feel more weird than not having some type of fellowship with people who share my religious convictions. And then dinner. My daughter wants to go out to dinner tonight, and I don't want to go out in this weather, so I think I'm going to treat us, and we're going to order in, but we're going to order something good. Everybody's going to get what they want. Those are the benefits of really enjoying your life, and ones that certain people don't have and will never have. And so I really try to work with my associate so that the people where in Haiti, where my mumbo is, get some help. Because two things about being in African traditional religion have taught me. Excuse me. There's nothing wrong with wealth. You know, back in the 90s, and people talking about we all come from kings and queens. We may not have all come from royalty. We might have come from priests and priestesses. I think that's where they misunderstood, because a lot of the people who were the kings and queens were the priests and the priestesses. Okay? And you were, why do this unless you were going to have good things? You know, and that's not the same for everybody. For somebody, it's a grill. For me, it's, you know, really good food, or a piece of furniture from my dollhouse. For other folks, it's a blunt. For other folks, it's a glass of wine. For other people, it's a boat. The other people, it's a mansion. For other people, it's a tiny house. We all have something that we love to have, and we want to be comfortable. And so that's one thing that I want people to work towards, working towards having comfort in your life. Because you can handle a lot of this psychological abuse outside a lot better when your inside is comfortable. You know? You got to have a place, a respite, and an oasis, and it can't be filled with garbage or things that you bought that you had no earthly use for. So that's why I don't want people to do that with magic. Because there's plenty of things you can fill your life with that you're going to use. And that's what you should focus on. So y'all have a lovely afternoon. I'm gonna make some popcorn with truffle salt, black truffle salt. Something as small as some homemade popcorn made on the stove with some black truffle salt is a luxury. And, you know, and the key is for us to build wealth, you got to find some of those luxuries that are on a small scale so that you can do big things later on. And that is where I want to go. And I've made a lot of financial mistakes. And I wish there had been somebody there to teach me. But my father said, I didn't know. I'm like, wait a minute, Negro, you day trading now. You living a life. Why didn't you teach me this? He's like, I didn't know. But I'm like, but when you found out, but you know, hopefully I'm in the will. He loves me. I send him herbs, even though he's Seventh-day Adventist, and they don't visit, but it's okay because I don't really feel like entertaining. But I love them dearly. I love all of my family in their perfection and in their imperfection and the shit that just gets on my nerves and the stuff that makes me beam with joy, because life is too short to be caught up on hate. That's energy that you're using. You drinking poison and expecting somebody else to die. I don't have time for that. So, class. Oh, shit. We got class tonight. My bad. Let me go take my nap so I can get up. Bye, y'all.